Today you will see the most mysterious and creepy photos in your life. Don't forget to subscribe. An ordinary photo from a fashion show in Las Vegas, but it captures an ominous moment. In the foreground is 17-year-old Michelle Korfman. Behind her is a man who later turned out to be involved in her disappearance. This is one of the last images of Michelle during her lifetime. In 1966, NASA recorded strange pyramidal structures on the moon. Later, their location was compared to the pyramids of Giza. Some consider it a play of light and shapes, others, a possible trace of an ancient civilization. The photo shows a man from the Badi tribe in southern Ethiopia. Every year, the most complete bachelor is chosen here. The winner gets the title and the right to be the first to choose his wife. To gain weight, participants drink milk and blood from cows. Animals are not killed. Blood is taken safely. The winner is chosen at a traditional ceremony at the sacred tree. A rare Victorian photograph. A woman in a corset makes a grimace instead of the usual serious pose. Perhaps one of the first photo memes in history. Unique photo. Geert Adriaan Boomgaard is the last living participant of the Napoleonic Wars. Born in 1788, he lived for 110 years and became a bridge between two eras. A rare shot from the beginning of the 20th century. A woman performs a complex gymnastic exercise under the supervision of a coach. This picture reflects the time when sport became a symbol of freedom and a step towards women's emancipation. June 18, 1963. Henry Cooper knocked down Muhammad Ali, but Ali got up and won. This fight became part of his legend. The photo shows the bronze heads from Ife, Nigeria, found in 1938. Created in the 14th, 15th centuries, they amazed the world with realism and destroyed stereotypes about African art. Photo taken on May 26, 1945, 17-year-old Yukio Araki, cadets of the 72nd Division and their puppy, the day before the mission to Okinawa, a quiet moment before the tragic finale. In the 1870s, in Liège, Belgium, they tried to use cats as postmen. 37 cats with letters were allowed to go home. Some got there, but most went about their business. The post failed, but the story remained, as one of the funniest in the logistics world. A rare photograph from 1913, Nicholas II's daughters picking mushrooms in Belovezhskaya Pushcha, without crowns, in simple clothes. The peaceful moment before the storm, a year before the outbreak of war and the tragic end of the Romanov family. A rare photo from the late 1940s. A young Norma Jean takes her first steps in a modeling career. It's not Marilyn Monroe yet, but you can already see in her gaze something that will conquer the whole world later. During the marathon in China in 2010, Kenyan Jacqueline Kiplimo helped a runner with a disability of 28 kilometers, sacrificing victory and $10,000. She came in second, but for many she became a real winner. This photo shows a woman and a man who seems to have no head. Later, the Czech Alexander Koch found the picture in the family archives and recognized the man as his grandfather. The scariest thing, the photo was taken a year before he died, having really lost his head under a train. A coincidence or an ominous omen? An old Halloween costume, a homemade mask, a forest, and an ominous silence. Real fear is without special effects. Photo from the performance of the late 1930s, Johnson over Jordan. A story about the afterlife of a rich man played by actors in frightening masks, an unconventional plot, and images that are not forgotten. The photo shows a Catholic priest among high-ranking representatives of Nazi Germany. This photograph is often controversial. It has become a symbol of the complex and contradictory relationship between the Church and the regime of the Third Reich in pre-war Europe. This photo from 1907 shows fishermen who supposedly fished out a sea serpent known as a Cadborosaurus. The creature was considered a myth, but this picture has become one of the most discussed proofs of its existence. Reality or a sea legend is still an open question. In the photo, 1975, Ted Bundy in an informal setting, helping to wash dishes after a party. The picture scares with its contrast, a carefree moment in a person's life, about which something completely different will become known later. A rare shot from the British film The First Men on the Moon, 1919, based on the novel by H.G. Wells. The painting is considered lost, but the surviving photos are valuable fragments of early fiction and cinema decor of that era. An old photograph taken during the renovation of the home captured the phantom of a Confederate soldier who died in the Civil War. A real and scary photo of a fire tornado in Hungary, the origin of which has not yet been established with absolute accuracy. The mystical 2003 photograph of the English Hampton Court Palace depicts a ghost, and according to experts, this picture has no traces of photomontage. Chinese archaeologists have found a wristwatch in a crypt, walled up for 4 centuries, and photographed it, which turned out to be engraved Swiss or Swiss. The photo shows the silhouette of Freddie Jackson, a mechanic who died 2 days before the shooting. The picture has become one of the most famous mystical mysteries of the past. A 1942 photo published in the Los Angeles Times captured the night sky bombardment over Los Angeles. Some believe that it was an alarm due to a suspected UFO. Later, the event was called the Battle for Los Angeles. In 2012, the Opportunity rover photographed strange globular formations on Mars. Scientists have suggested that it could be hematite, a possible trace of ancient water, but the exact nature of the objects remains unknown. In 1959, Dyatlov's group mysteriously died in the Urals. The tent was cut open from the inside. The bodies were scattered, without clothes, with severe injuries and traces of radiation. There are many theories, but none so far explains everything. The mystery remains unsolved. The photo is not a real shark, but an underwater sculpture installed at the bottom of Lake Neuchâtel in Switzerland. Despite its frightening appearance, it is just an art object, which often becomes an unexpected find for divers. The photo shows the inside of the mouth of a leatherback turtle. These sea giants feed on jellyfish, and their throats are covered with sharp keratin growths, papillae that prevent prey from escaping back. It looks scary, but completely natural. The photo shows an abandoned psychiatric clinic near Budapest, Hungary. The gloomy atmosphere, dilapidated walls, and thick fog give the place an ominous appearance, as if it were frozen in time. The photo is not a sea monster, but an impressive sculpture, Serpent d'Océan, installed on the shore in Saint-Brevin-les-Pins, France. Its author is the Chinese artist Huang Yunping. The work creates the illusion of a giant snake disappearing into the water. In northern Queensland, a crocodile is perfectly camouflaged in the mud off the coast. The hunt begins exactly like this. The victim does not notice the danger until the last second. The commentator under the photo confessed. One day, he accidentally stepped on an alligator and almost lost his mind. The reptile just stared at him and silently went into the water. Here is a rare artifact from the 17th century, a box of poisons disguised as a book. Inside, there are miniature drawers with the names of poisonous plants such as Atrapa belladonna, Heoscyamus niger, and Datura stramonium. Such caches could belong to apothecaries, alchemists, or even spies of that time. This metal fence is called Mort Safe. It appeared in Scotland in the 18th century to protect graves from robbers. Back then, bodies were often dug up for medical practice, and families installed such structures to prevent this. The image shows human anatomical models made in the 17th century. Such wooden figures with removable organs were used to train doctors in an era when access to real bodies was limited. Surprisingly accurate for their time, they served as visual aids to the structure of the human body. In 1975, Peter Berthelot photographed his wife as she prayed alone at Worsted Church in Norfolk, England. Judging by the photo, Mrs. Berthelot was clearly not alone. The photo shows one of the first gas masks from the First World War. It is made of fabric, with metal rings for viewing and a primitive breathing valve. Such masks were used to protect against chemical weapons, but they were extremely inconvenient and unreliable. In 1968, a woman watched her husband while he unpacked Christmas presents. Suddenly, a hand appeared on the TV. Needless to say, the TV was turned off. The photo shows protective medical clothing used in Poland in 1963. Such suits with tightly closed faces and airtight glasses were used to work with particularly dangerous infections. It looks scary, but in those years, it was a necessary security measure. The photo shows an Indian ascetic, presumably a Brahmin, practicing rituals of communication with spirits. His gaze is full of intensity and inner tension. The skull in front of him is part of a ritual associated with meditation on mortality and connection with the afterlife. The picture seemed to capture the boundary between the spiritual and the physical. This photo is probably an old-fashioned group shot of a religious gathering, but edited to give an ominous effect. The glowing eyes of all participants are the result of digital manipulation or an artifact of shooting with a strong flash and retouching. Real human eyes can't glow that way. The effect enhances the atmosphere of mystery and anxiety, but is not proof of anything supernatural. In May 1967, Stefan Michalyak claimed to have encountered an unusual object near Lake Sokol. According to him, he saw two cigar-shaped devices, one of which landed. The attempt to approach ended with burns. The man was taken to the hospital with chest injuries. The story still remains unsolved. Mysterious glowing objects have been recorded in the Hessdalen Valley, Norway, since the 1940s. They were especially often observed in the early 1980s, up to 20 times a week. The reasons have not yet been determined. In 2009, workers in Cleveland were repairing the roof after a hurricane, and their friend took a photo with a regular camera. Later, looking at the picture, he noticed the figure of an old woman in white in the window. The problem is that the house has been empty for a long time, and its former owner died a few years ago. In 1899, Thanksgiving in New York was more like Halloween. The streets were filled with costume crowds, from harlequins to bandits. The masquerade was massive, especially among children, and mask shops were making record sales that day. But by the 1920s, the tradition had gradually disappeared, giving way to a more relaxed holiday familiar to us today. Lake Anjakini, Canada, is the site of one of the most mysterious stories of disappearance. In 1930, hunter Joe LaBelle discovered an empty village. Things and weapons remained in place, but the people seemed to have evaporated. It is still unknown where the residents disappeared to. The photo shows an unusual pair of shoes from the late 19th century that belonged to Dr. John Osborne, who later became governor of Wyoming. The shoe material, according to historical data, was the remains of the criminal George Parrott, better known as Big Nose. This story was considered a legend for a long time, until it was officially confirmed in 1950. In 2013, Ibrahim Yücel from Turkey decided to quit smoking in a very unusual way. He put a makeshift metal cage on his head so that he would not physically have access to cigarettes. After 26 years of smoking, the man could not cope with addiction using traditional methods and went to extreme measures. The story quickly spread through the media, becoming a symbol of willpower and the fight against bad habits. Lalit Patidar from India lives with a rare genetic disorder, hypertrichosis, known as werewolf syndrome. Despite his unusual appearance, he leads an active and happy life, dreams of becoming a policeman, and jokes with friends. This condition is extremely rare. About 50 such cases have been documented throughout history. The Yonaguni Monument is an underwater structure off the coast of Japan, discovered in 1986 at a depth of 25 meters. It resembles a giant step pyramid with a height of almost 28 meters. Some researchers believe that this is a man-made object about 5,000 years old, while others believe that it is a natural formation. The origin of the monument is still a mystery. The photo shows a patsu fish that lives in the Amazon rivers. Her teeth are remarkably similar to human teeth, due to the fact that she eats solid foods such as nuts, fruits, and vegetation. Although pacu is not aggressive, her powerful jaws can cause harm. There are cases when fish have bitten people, mistaking body parts for food. In Kent, in the south of England, a mysterious photo has appeared that allegedly shows a giant underwater crab more than 20 meters long. The picture quickly went viral, sparking controversy. Some consider it the result of an installation. Others refer to local legends and fishermen's stories about strange finds and damaged nets. There is no confirmation, but the mystery of the crab from Kent still excites the imagination. The photo shows a Bakut woman. The picture was taken in 1957 in the Belgian Congo, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The decorations on her body and face are the result of traditional scarring, in which the skin is intentionally incised to create symbolic patterns. Such markings often reflect status, maturity, or belonging to a particular group. The photo shows U.S. nurses on exercises in 1942. They practice actions in conditions of chemical attack, in gas masks and special uniforms. Such trainings were conducted throughout the country during the Second World War. A Carmelite nun in prayer in her ascetic cell, France, 1904. On the wall is a crucifix and an inscription in Latin, "Lord, have mercy on this sinner." Terataspis is a prehistoric marine arthropod that lived about 397 million years ago. He was distinguished by his large size and menacing appearance, reminiscent of something from nightmares. This is Jembatan Akar, a living bridge made of intertwined banyan roots, located near Padang, Indonesia. It was formed from 1890 to 1916 and continues to strengthen as the tree grows. The photo shows the rarest miniature collection of all the works of William Shakespeare, published more than 100 years ago. Despite its tiny size, each volume contains the full text of the plays. Traditional Chinese handmade armor. It took about 2 months to make them, and their weight is just over 15 kg. Each element was created in strict compliance with historical technologies. The fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989. One of the most symbolic moments of the 20th century is when Germans demolished the concrete wall that separated East and West for more than 28 years. Purple Rain in New York. This impressive picture was taken 10 minutes before sunset, as sunlight passing through the clouds turned the city a mystical purple. A man made of grass. Against the background of dry land, a densely green area of an ideal shape stands out. A man. Coincidence or a reason to pick up a shovel? Neck stretching machine, New York, 1941. Gino Franceschini came up with this device to become taller and fulfill his dream of working as a firefighter. He increased his height a little, but the profession remained unattainable. A 17th century German doll. Many antique dolls were made of fragile materials and could not stand on their own, so they were given stands. Sometimes these pillars looked so strange that they created an ominous effect. Harold Lloyd and his legendary Christmas tree, 1960. The silent movie star put on a real show every year. He tied several fir trees together, creating one giant structure. He decorated it by hand, up to 5,000 toys per tree. Hairstyle as a work of art, 1965. This perfect geometry was created by stylist Philip Mason using 2 electric typewriters. It took him 2 days to achieve this level of symmetry. The fire in the cemetery is like a scene from a horror movie. Thick smoke, trees engulfed in flames, and silhouettes of tombstones create an ominous and almost unreal sight. This moment seems to be torn out of the finale of an apocalyptic drama. A sinkhole in the backyard. The residents of this house were shocked to discover a sudden sinkhole right next to the wall. The pit goes down almost 100 meters into an ancient mine shaft, left over from the Middle Ages. A test track on the roof. In 1929, Fiat built a unique factory in Turin, Italy. There was a full-fledged racing track on its roof where the cars underwent final tests immediately after assembly. A clown mannequin in a pipe. This frightening clown is not part of a horror movie, but a real find. He was discovered by a locksmith examining a sewer pipe. A mummified monk inside a Buddha statue. At first glance, this is an ordinary Buddhist statue from the 11th century. However, a CT scan revealed that there was a real human body inside, a mummified monk. Researchers believe that this was an act of self-mummification practiced by some Buddhist schools. The statue thus became a tomb and a reliquary at the same time. The train saved by the whale sculpture, the Netherlands, 2020. In November 2020, a subway train in Rotterdam did not stop on time and broke through the barrier at the end of the overpass. He miraculously did not fall into the water. The car hovered in the air, ending up right on the tail of the sculpture Whale Tails. Ironically, the installation is called Saved by the Whale's Tail. The sculpture literally saved lives, and it became one of the most surreal road accidents of the decade. Australia, December 31st, 2019. Burning sky. This is not a frame from a science fiction movie or Photoshop. The wildfires that have engulfed the state of Victoria have turned the sky over the city of Malakuta blood red. Thousands of residents were forced to evacuate to beaches, fleeing from the fire and smoke. The smoke is so dense that it has completely changed the daylight, giving everything an apocalyptic hue. Francis Bacon's workshop after his death, 1992. The photo shows the amazing chaos created by the British artist Francis Bacon. Immediately after his death, photographer Perry Ogden gained unique access to the studio. Littered with paints, canvases, clippings, and books, this room has become a reflection of the artist's inner world and his expressive, restless style. The Doge of Venice's Battle Bible, 17th century. The photo shows a unique artifact, a book with a bilt, in pistol that belonged to Francesco Morosini, Doge of Venice, in 1619 to 1694. The weapon was hidden inside so that it could be fired without opening the cover. Today, this rare exhibit is kept in the Correr Museum in Venice and is considered a symbol of the combination of religion, power, and secret protection in an era of intrigue and conspiracy. The collapsed highway after the earthquake in Kobe, 1995. Pictured is the aftermath of the Great Hanshin earthquake that occurred in Japan on January 17, 1995. The highway in Kobe collapsed, overturning trucks and destroying infrastructure. The force of the tremors, magnitude 7.3, caused catastrophic destruction and became one of the most tragic in the history of modern Japan. This photo shows the famous forest circles in Japan. This is not a UFO or a joke of nature, but a scientific experiment started more than 50 years ago. Japanese researchers planted Japanese cedar trees in concentric circles, with different distances between the seedlings to study how planting density affects growth. Bottom line, the closer the trees are to each other, the lower they are. Harry Fowles, a member of the Peaky Blinders gang, one of many urban youth gangs of the era. The gang itself dissolved fairly quickly, but the name stuck. In time, many street gangs began to be referred to as Peaky Blinders. Miss Russia, Miss Austria, and Miss Holland, photographed together in 1930, each representing their country with elegance and the fashion of the early interwar period. An evening walk through Moscow, October 1993, as flames engulfed the Russian White House during the constitutional crisis. Ordinary citizens witnessed history unfolding just across the river. If you liked it, please subscribe and like it. Bye, friend.